Well, it's another beautiful morning. I am honestly not looking forward to today. Let's go see what we've got to do. All right. It's cool outside. It's cool in this addition. We're circulating air to keep it cool in here. This is actually quite nice working conditions. You guys saw in the last video, we got the two walls framed up for the outside of the stairwell. Now what we have to determine is, where does our platform land? Where does our center wall go? Once the platform is installed, it's going to be installed at 5'7" or around there. Our ceiling height, top of joist to top of plywood, is 11 foot 10 inches. So we know our total rise, and we have to divide that into two stairwells, if you will. And it's one stairwell, but we're going to go up, land on a platform, turn, step up one more time on a second platform, turn, and then go up through the floor. And that is exactly how we're going to build this. I know a lot of people have also been asking questions about what I call floor joist X's. I'm sure there's a proper term for them. I don't know what that term is. If y'all want to put that in the comments, I'll learn something. As you guys can see, Eric has been here since I was here last, and he has the X's installed. I asked him to stop one joist opening, one joist cavity before the wall, so that we know we're going to go up through here and cut a hole. Once we get all that headers framed, we will come back in and put the X's in here as well. There's just no reason to do that until we know for sure where we're going to end up at. And then we'll also throw some X's over here, over top of the shower. Yes, we have a top plate that's nailed into that, but I want that load to spread out across those X's. He was also in the crawl space, glad it was you and not me, down there. And those same X's are installed down at the bottom. And he also got the wall framed up underneath the double joist that will support this stairwell. Right now what we're gonna do is, he's gonna pull some dimensions on this last gap. So I asked him to leave that one out so that we could show you guys how we pull the dimensions and how we install them. So let's get this going. So Eric's gonna cut the first side of the X. I'm gonna pull him a dimension. You just bump your tape up in that corner and come down here and look at what your tape reads. So we're gonna cut this one 14 1/4. And what Eric did was he cut his first 45-degree angle, which is really close. It's a little steeper than that by about 2 degrees. But he cut his first 45, now he'll measure from his long point of his 45. Not everybody may understand what long point is. Short point, long point. And what I measure was long point to long point. So he's got his long point made. He's gonna pull over. He already did it, 14 1/4. He's got his mark there. And that's where he's gonna cut his short point on this side, because the angles run the same direction. They're not opposing angles. And once he gets that cut, we'll show you guys how we put it in. So after you get your angles cut, slam, nail your bottom off. The reason we're doing it this way is we have plywood on top. If you don't have plywood on top, you can get in there and nail your tops. But with these big guns, you can't do that. So what you end up doing is you get in here for your top side, you toenail that X off, so now it's held on top and it's held on bottom. That's how you install the X's. We will put in a second one right next to it, just like you see here. As you can see, we got our second X in there. Yes, we're gonna do another one over there, but Eric can do that stuff while I'm not here. So the next step in this is to lay out the steps. We know we have two platforms, I explained that earlier, but our goal is to hit as close to 3'4" wide as we can get. That's what the print states. And I believe, going off of how we framed up this wall, I will use a plumb bob I know there are more fancy things out there in this world than a plumb bob, but a plumb bob's old school and a plumb bob works every time. We'll use a plumb bob to drop down off of that joist, mark the subfloor, chalk us a line, and that will be the inside of the center wall, and that will tell us how wide of steps we're actually going to achieve. And if I measure this right here, from the wall to the outside edge of the double joist, we're 3'6" and a little bit of change. We know 3.5 inches is going to come off of that, so our steps are probably going to be 3'3.5" instead of 3'4". I believe my first double joist got off 1/2 inch, and we matched that joist to that joist. So I don't think we're going to hit 34 on the or 3'4" on the nose. That's my fault. This happens in construction. Pretty confident we're going to hit 3'3.5". You ready to drop a plumb bob down?
Yeah.
And we'll drop the plumb bob down if you want to mark the floor. All right, so for those of you who don't know, this is a plumb bob. If I touch this string on that double joist above our head, that point right there is the exact same spot as that string right there. So this ensures you've got that plumb line transferred from top to bottom. Let's do this. You ready?
Ready.
And I have it on a roll of construction string is all I have. It's nothing special. Hold it right there. Drop her down to the floor so she'll stop swinging. Just a swinging. And it takes a minute for it to settle out sometimes, but just keep tapping that floor until it stops. That sucker's sitting pretty still. All right, now we just do that one more time on that end. We'll chalk the line all the way across, and that gets us this side of the wall that we will frame up later, which ensures it is under that double joist. Whoop, whoop. Now, I think we're going to frame up the platform.
Should.
Before we do the wall. Because if we do the wall first, we got to bring those 2x12s in this small area. Whereas if we do the platform, we can bring the wall over to the platform. Do you agree?
I agree.
All right, let's get a platform framed up. I've had a lot of questions about what do you screw your stuff to on the ICF. You guys can see we've got the first platform started here. So I am using regular old coated deck screws like I've used every other time. And I'm running these screws through the board into this spot that says Superform, which is the plastic studs. They are spaced every 6 inches. And it is just as simple as driving a screw in anything else. If I can get you guys set up here. Board's a little wavy. See if we can do this without you guys falling off. It's just as simple as putting a screw in anything else. The only difference is you don't want to over tighten it. Sucks it into the wood. As soon as you get it sucked into the wood, stop. The reason you don't want to over tighten those is you can strip out the plastic just like if you strip out a screw in wood. So that is screwed to the ICF. You guys saw us screw this and nail this to the ends. So this is all tied together. And then we've got it nailed to these 2x4s. We'll get it nailed here to these 2x4s. And then we'll get 2 more boards in here on 16-inch centers. And then we will be able to start pulling dimensions and laying out the distance of the steps, rise and run. This is the part I really am not looking forward to, cutting stringers. Bet you haven't done that for 20 years. Let's see how this goes. Anyway, let's get this nailed off. Well, okay, you guys are going to get to struggle through this with me. I'm going to put you on time lapse, so your struggle will be much faster than my struggle. This is going to be fun. Yes, we do not have the 2x4 that belongs right here to support this corner. We do have it marked out now. That's end of platform, which is right here. So we'll transfer that mark up to the top, and we'll get another 2x4 in here to support this corner. That I'm not worried about just yet, because I have a sneaky suspicion these stringers are gonna take me a little bit. So we have got 3 foot, 3.5 inch wide steps. So if I go 3 stringers, that will be essentially 12 inch on center. Close, right? So we gotta make 3 stringers. And we have measured up originally and got top of platform and bottom of platform marked. This right here is top of last tread, meaning when I cut these triangles out of here and this cut goes straight over, that's gonna hit right there. We have 8 steps because we have 80 inches to fill in. I did a mock-up over here. My buddy Tom made me prints, and the dimension I gave him wasn't correct. So his prints are great, but his prints aren't correct because this dimension is not correct. If I would have left it his dimension, that would have stuck out that far into the hallway. That's my bad giving him the wrong dimension, not Tom's fault. So here are the dimensions we're working with. We have a run of 80 and a rise of 60. We know for a fact our risers here, which would, the riser is from either bottom or tread height, tread top to next tread top. we know this is 7.5 inches. The reason we know that is I multiplied 7.5 by 8 rises, and that got me my 60 inches. And that also allowed me to have the 80 inch correct. But really that 80 inch came from setting the platform distance out 3 foot 3.5, which will match the step width. I'll give you the exact visual of that. From here to here is 3 foot 3.5, and I wanted my platforms to match that exact dimension, so you always have the same width no matter where you're at. All right, we are going to make ourselves a template. As you guys saw from my math earlier, we are a 10-inch tread and a 7.5 inch rise. Mark those two off. Take our square that I left over here. Mark ourselves from corner to corner. We will cut this off, keep this. I'll show you the next step after we get it cut. All right, you can see we've got our 10-inch, we've got our 7.5 inch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to screw that to a 2x6. This is the cheat code I was talking about earlier. Now all I should have to do is set that on my stringer 2x12, mark out the quantity of steps that we calculated earlier. You guys remember that math. We have 8 10-inch runs. So that being 10 inches, yes, that sticks a little past, so it's not going to set perfect on this board, but if I was to do it like that right there, you guys can see I'll mark 8 of those and line up my rise with my run, and that should be our stringer. I think this will work. Let's find out. Well, here goes the moment of truth, and I wanted to mention one thing. I like to put every stringer I've ever done and every stringer that I feel like is really sturdy, and put a solid board underneath of it so the stringer's actually set on this 2x12, which is attached to the floor, so it gives it a little bit better base. That's just my personal preference. Put you guys on regular video here. Moment of truth. If we screwed this up, you're gonna get to see it right along with it. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's see how it works.
I'm tired.
Tired?
Tired of all the thinking.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of thinking involved there.
Tired of all the thinking. I was going
Drop your end
I want to
down.
see it get put in.
Please tell me you are on that line
We are a half inch to an inch over.
Okay? So we mounted our 2x12 a little too far my way.
Yeah.
We just need to take that 2x12 back up and slide it out.
Come this way half inch. Well, I mean, the 2x12 is on that line.
That line, that's what I'm saying. Our original line is off.
Okay.
We're off by a half inch, which is a lot, so we're gonna fix it, but all we gotta do is pop this board loose and slide it forward.
Simple, easy.
And this is a 10-inch
Finally.
bed, right? Yep, 10 inches, so that board just needs to come out. I'll give you guys the exact dimension. We are 5/8 of an inch off on our original dimension there. So we're gonna move that board out 5/8. Now we have a template. Now we just have to cut 3 more of those stringers because we are 3 foot 3.5 inches. So if we go 12-inch centers, ooh, we're actually gonna make 4 of them. We're gonna go 4.
We got a template now.
We have a template. It worked! It worked! Cool. All right, let's make 4 more, 3 more. Let's make 3 more. Well, there is the first flight. That came out really nice. Now we have to build a second platform on top of that platform to create the first 7.5-inch step. So we're going to use 2x8s. We're going to frame in a nice little secondary platform, nail it off to the first platform, and then we'll be able to bring our stringer down and attach it to our header that comes across on the second platform. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, there is one set of steps and 2 platforms. You guys might ask, why did I extend that past? I want my next set of steps to sit 10 inches onto this, which will make the face of the stringer in line just past this board. It'll be in line with that board there, which will put all the weight onto this 2x12 and span it across this 2x8 that is only cantilevered by 10 inches. I feel like that'll solid it up really nicely. I don't plan on building a wall down there. I want all of this to be steps storage, but if I have to, if I feel uncomfortable with the amount of weight we're putting on it, I can build me a wall right here off of this edge and go up right underneath of that cantilevered platform. So I've got the option, but you guys keep in mind, I have 3 foot 3 inches and 10 inches of cantilever. That is way less than a third. So I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. I just wanted to make mention of it in case some of you professionals on here that comment on my channel could tell me how it should be, because I think that's fine. Probably overkill, honestly, since I used 2x12s on the first platform instead of a 2x10. But put a comment in there. If that is needing a wall underneath of it, let me know. And please keep in mind, there is a wall. This is 3.5 inches from the edge of the crawl space opening. There is a wall that goes in between these stringers and that cantilevered 10-inch and goes all the way up to that double joist. Obviously not up into platforms because then you can't walk the steps, but it stops right at that 2x12. We'll attach to that 2x12, and that 2x8 will nail over to a 2x4 wall that goes all the way up. So now, I did measure it off. I'm 2 inches off. Dang it. If I'd have lowered that 2 inches, I then would have been the exact same as these stringers up top. Or I could have lowered it 1 inch, but if I would have lowered it 1 inch, I would have had an 8.5 inch step up there. And with the way this, again, everybody has to remember, this floor matches the floor in the castle, and that floor matches the floor in the castle. So I had to use those as my set points. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna cut the stringers the exact same way, and the header that ends up going in right over here, remember I gotta cut these 2x12s out, all but the double, and I'll put a header in 36 or whatever it is for the hallway over. I'll put a header in right there, and that's where the stringer will attach. So we'll have 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, rise, rise, rise. 5.5 will be the very last step. There's really not much I could have done about it. It is what it is now, especially, but I could have made, no, I couldn't have, because 8.5 goes over what it needs to be. Between 7 and 8 inches is where you're supposed to be, and 10-inch depth, and that's what we've got. And I use 2x12s as my treads. This will be finished, other than I will put a 1x pine backer in here, and you guys will just have to wait for future videos to see what I'm going to do with those steps. But 2x12 treads, those are long-term solution. After we wear them out and get stuff all over them, I'm going to flip them over and use the bottom side as the actual finish.